It's Tuesday, the 16th of November 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
All right, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Here we go. The housing market, Sean, is under scrutiny as regulators discuss ways to take the heat out of the market. We've got both the Reserve Bank and APRA talking about what might happen.
Yeah, the boss of the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, Wayne Byers, was quite pointed yesterday. He said the regulator needed a bunch of options at its disposal to address any risks that emerged. Now, he talked about a few things. One is high debt-to-income ratios. That's when people whose debt is more than 4 times or sometimes more than 6 times their annual income. He talked about high loan-to-valuation ratios. That's when more than 80% of the cost of the home loan is borrowed. Mr. Byers said the regulator was keen to target problems. He didn't want to belt the market with a hammer, but he did want to take on hotspots. At the same time, the Reserve Bank Assistant Governor Lucy Ellis was talking in front of a federal parliamentary inquiry and said when it comes to official interest rates, Australia doesn't necessarily follow the US. Now, we know the US is likely to lift interest rates next year, whereas the Reserve Bank said it won't be doing anything till 2024. We'll have to wait and see about that. Also, figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics showed that home ownership has fallen from about 70% to 66% over the past 20 years, and younger cohorts are affected most. What all groups are really worried about are first home buyers. They don't want to introduce new rules that kick them out of the market, but they're also the ones who often breach these high debt to income or loan to valuation ratios. It's a very, very thin line for the regulators to walk to take the heat out of the market, which they're trying to do without hurting people like first home buyers.
Yeah, certainly is a big story, that one. On to story number 2, Sean, and a really interesting statistic about COVID vaccinations in Australia.
Yes, more than 226,000 people across the country have failed to turn up for their second COVID dose. That figure came out of the Federal Department of Health. Now, there could be good reasons for it, Michael, of course, but it's a lot of people. The flip side is that 17.1 million people have turned up for a second jab. That's about 83% of the population. Hopefully, those 226,000 people will somehow catch up with that.
Yeah, hopefully so. All right, story number 3, and we love talking about big deals. Deals worth billions of dollars, and here's a good one. Woodside has sold a 49% stake in its $7.6 billion Pluto LNG expansion plant in WA to Global Infrastructure Partners.
Yes, broadly, I reckon oil and gas companies almost do the biggest deals. Woodside's been trying to sell this interest in the LNG processing unit to help fund its $16 billion Scarborough gas project. That project is a joint venture with BHP. Now, remember, Woodside and BHP's petroleum businesses are merging. The final decision on whether Scarborough gets a go-ahead will occur next month, but now it's been able to get rid of this stake or sell this stake, it is much more likely. Interestingly, the Pluto Scarborough project will be the biggest investment in a fossil fuel project in Australia for almost a decade. Woodside boss Meg O'Neill is selling the project as a way of helping customers transition and achieve their decarbonisation goals. Kind of counterintuitive, but I think she probably does make sense.
On to story number 4, and this one is a really interesting story. It's about a company, Sean, that you've spoken about a few times, Mesoblast, and yesterday the share price of the biopharmaceutical company went on a run. It's quite extraordinary.
It is. I mean, I love Mesoblast just because its share price is so volatile. Basically, its share price was up 11% yesterday. Mind you, it's half of what it was late last year. Mesoblast reported that a cell therapy it's developed had the potential to become a game changer in the fight against chronic heart failure. Now, the medical director of the Texas Heart Institute released details of a 5-year phase 3 trial involving a Mesoblast therapy. It demonstrated a 79% reduction in heart attacks and strokes in cases of heart failure with high levels of inflammation. All patients with heart failure treated with the therapy experienced a 65% reduction in non-fatal heart attack or stroke events. These are fantastic numbers, but before you rush off and buy the stock, the drug hasn't been okayed by regulators. It's still got some way to go, but it's very, very promising for Mesoblast.
And as always, get some financial advice.
Absolutely, Michael.
That's story number 4. On to story number 5. And if we were talking about this a few months ago, we would have thought it would probably never happen. But today, the US and the Chinese presidents are meeting.
Yeah, Joe Biden and Xi Jinping are speaking. hoping to improve relations between the two superpowers, which really are at their probably worst in many decades. Now, apart from trade, the US has been really critical about China's regional ambitions, particularly around Taiwan, while China has criticised the US for interfering in its national interests. Of course, the countries did last week come to an agreement at the UN Climate Change Summit around emissions reductions. It's just good news that the two leaders are at least communicating, the virtual meetings taking place, and hopefully it will actually be the first step in several to improve relations between the two countries.
Yeah, and we'll have an update on that one in the afternoon report later today. That's it, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Tuesday, the 16th of November, 2021. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. Head to fearandgreed.com.au as well and sign up for our free daily newsletter. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fear and Greed Business Headlines. Have a great day.